Yeah, so we'll be starting today's lecture, continuing the unit 6. So the primary, sorry, we came through presentations, and we went through Word and PowerPoint, and we talked about Paint as well, about how designs are being done using Paint. And then now we are going to jump into another important point about web authoring. Okay, so here at this point we are actually not going to go very in depth about web development as per se. Okay, so the idea behind this is for us to get an idea about how a basic website is created and how these tools can be used to accomplish that task. So, we'll be discussing about 3 different tools in this particular module. Okay, so in this part, we'll we use either Dreamweaver or Composer. So I'll show you guys the 3 platforms which we are going to use, so which we can use. Okay, so one is about the first software is called Dreamweaver, which is a software which was developed by Adobe. So you can actually download this onto your Windows machine if you want, and you do get a trial version as well, where what it does is it actually gives you let's say an easy way of creating HTML just by couple of clicks. Okay, so they do have multiple designs, plus as well as it helps you to do some basic web authoring work. Okay, as well as we have another tool called Composer. So Composer is a free tool which is known as a WYSIWYG editor. But the thing is, as you guys can see, this was last released on 2016. Okay, so the version is quite old. Okay, almost 9 years old. So here you can see some examples about how that tool is being used. Okay, so that is one tool, and the other one we are recommended is called Amaya. Okay, so this is basically an open source editor which will let you edit websites and HTML code. Okay, so you do have few different versions of this. So let me show you. So this is also designed for this. Let me try to show you how to download one. Let's say Amaya is a web authoring tool, and under download, close. Let's try to find a Mac version. So this is the web version. I'll put this on the chat. Okay, so this is for the Windows version, as well as we do have a version for Mac as well. Cool. Let me try to find a distribution. Okay, Mac OS. But as you guys can see, this is also a pretty old application which was released back in 2012. Okay, so what I suggest is so you have 2 options. You can either download one of these applications and continue on it. Otherwise, you do have an option to basically do this using something known as VS Code. Okay, so Visual Studio Code is a code editor which actually has support for all Windows and Mac. Plus, this actually has some AI features as well, which inbuilt let you handle, edit, and work with different types of codes. Okay, So for these module examples, what I'm going to do is I will be using Visual Studio Code to basically build this website, and I'll take you through the basic features of this. Okay, so we are not going to go very in depth into HTML, which will where we will be basically touching the surface on the basic points on how to edit a website and see how it works. Okay, so jumping into web authoring. Okay, so this tool, this is the Composer tool, but sadly this Composer is also very old, which was released a couple of years ago, and my current laptop does not support these type of applications because this is really old. I am actually using a latest Apple device. So anyway, we'll see how it works. Now in HTML we have few primary tags which we need to keep in mind. So first of all, when you are learning HTML, the best resource would be W3C schools. Okay, W3 schools. I'll send that on the chat as well. Okay, so W3 schools will actually give you a clear tutorial on how HTML works. Okay, so I'm going to go a bit faster with the primary tags because we are focusing on a specific set of tags for this particular thing because we want to build a simple web page. Okay, so let's see how it works. Now I'm using Visual Studio Code, so let me close this and open it again. So I have Visual Studio Code installed, and once Visual Studio Code is loaded up, you will see something like this. Okay, here now you can actually go into this area, click on this, and you can actually open a folder. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on open folder, and on my desktop I am going to create a folder inside our ICT module. Okay, so I'm going to create a folder as, clicked on new folder, and I'm going to create a folder as unit 6 HTML. Okay, so then I will open this folder. So once the folder is opened, now you will get an empty screen. Okay, so this area is empty, plus this area is also empty because we have not selected any files to work on it. Okay, so now starting off, we need an HTML file, right? So to run the HTML, to open up the HTML file, to build the HTML, we need to have the HTML file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this area, and when you right click, you get this option called new file. At the same time, if you click here, you will again, you get the same option as new file. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file called index. I just created, okay, so we created a file called index.html, and this will be the file which will contain all the HTML content. Okay, now in this file I will start building an HTML code. Okay, so let's see how it works. In basic terms, HTML needs to have a certain set of basic tags. So when you use something like a web authoring editor, you can see that it still shows the code, but in that code it will show you a view as well on the top. But what I suggest is, after being a web developer for the last almost 15 years, I highly recommend you to go forward with this type of layout because it's going to be very easy to manipulate and control the content. So let's see what we need. So in HTML, we have a certain primary 3 tags, which is an HTML tag, which we will write like this. Okay, so we create the tag as HTML, and then inside the HTML we need the second most important tag, which is the head. Okay, and then we need the third most important tag, which is going to be a body. Okay, so these three are the primary tags we need to build a website. Okay, now if I put some content here, okay, so let's say some content, and now how do you open this? It's quite easy. All you need to do is just go to your open up your folder. So here I'm going into the folder Edexcel, and this is IGCSE ICT, and I have the file here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to double click on the file, and just like that your browser will open that file. Okay, now you can see we have this content, the text we just added as some content, and that is visible, right? Perfect. So if you did the up to this extent, now we have a working website. Okay, now we need to add one more tag to complete this structure. What is it? We need a title, right? So the title tag will make sure that your page has a title which will then display on the browser. Okay, now if I refresh, okay, so we'll just make it smaller. Okay, see on the top you can see that the file name is known as index.html, right? Now since I did the change, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to refresh the page by clicking on reload, and immediately you can see now the title got changed. Okay, now the title got changed to my first page, which is the title which we added here. Okay, perfect. So if you got this up to this extent, then that means we do have a fully functioning web page. Nice. Okay, then so these are the 5 primary tags we need. Okay, so sorry, we have 3 primary tags plus the title, which will add it up to 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4 primary tags in order for us to display a page. Okay, now let's see what are the next steps we need to take. So when we go into the document preview, here this gives a small activity of creating a table. Okay, so let's see how to create a table in the HTML file we just built. Okay, so tables, how to build the table. Now in this case, this is asking us to create a table with 5 cells. Sorry, yeah, so 5 by 5 table. Okay, so that means 5 rows and 5 columns, right? So let's see how it works. So in HTML we have a tag to handle all these tables, which is known as the table tag. Okay, so quite straightforward, we use the table tag like this. Okay, now with the table tag, now we have a set of other tags which we need to add into in order to build the table layout. Okay, so let's see what are the tags. Now in a table, we know we have table rows and we have table columns, right? So a table row will be created using the tag called TR, which is a table row. Okay, and then the tags inside the table row is known as table data. Table data means TD. So now we have a table with a single row and a single cell. Okay, so let me add 5 cells to this. Okay, so I just copied and pasted the cells. Now what do we have? We have a table with a row which has 5 table cells. Okay, let's see now. Okay, now let's just try to see this on the page. Okay, so if I go to our browser back again, and if I refresh, we don't see anything, no? So let's try to add some data to this as well. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 and save and refresh and now you can see the values are visible, right? But the cells are not, right? So that is 100% normal. That is the expected behavior of a table, okay? So when you put the table creates whatever the layout which is there, but the borders and all are not technically visible, okay? So when you want to make this visible, all you need to do is give me 1 second. Okay, all you need to do is you just have to open the data set, open the table, and here we can add a border. Okay, so in simple terms, this is known as an attribute. Okay, and this border attribute will allow you to allocate a value which is either 1 or 0. Okay, so 1, when we add 1, that means the border will get activated. Now let's see, when I refresh, just like that, you can see the borders now. See, okay, so now we know what the table is, right? Nice. Okay, so now how to add another 5 rows? Now here this is literally asking us to make a table of 5 columns and 5 cells, right? 5 rows. So in order to do this, what we do is we take the data set and we can replicate it. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Okay, now when we have 5 items, now let's see how it works. So if I refresh, just like that, now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, I accidentally added one more, so let's delete this and refresh. Nice, perfect. Now we have 5 rows and 5 columns, right? Perfect. Now we have the detail set to, the table set to display on the page. Now what's the next one? The next one is we have to make sure that the table width is set to 100%. Give me 1 second. Table width to set to 100%, right? So let's see how it works. Now in order to do that, let me exit that. Okay, perfect. In order to do it, what we do is to do that particular task, to make it 100%, okay, we can add the attribute as width 100, okay, width 100, and here we use the percentage to tell the browser that I want this table to span for 100%. So let's see, when I do a refresh, now we have a full table with 5 rows and 5 columns, and the table spans up to 100%, right? Perfect. No, so now we have a clear table active, right? Let's say now, okay, so now perfect, now we are halfway through. So I hope up to this extent what we did is clear. If you have any clarifications, you can obviously replay the video and check this out. But I want you to try this at home, because getting to know how to code this would be the best. So that is the table as we created. Perfect. Now let's jump back to the activity and see what's the next one. So it says format the table so that the borders will not be displayed by a web browser by setting up the border thickness to 0. see now here the reason I kept the border thickness to 1 was that otherwise this will not be visible. Okay, so I just kept it as it is just to show you guys how it works. Now if we set this to 0 and refresh, you can see now all the borders are removed. Now what you have is a clear table with the values displayed in it. Okay, now all good. Now we are like almost 50% done, right? Then this is asking to set the cell padding and cell padding and cell spacing to 0. Okay, so what is this cell padding and cell spacing? You can actually see that. So if I enable this border again and refresh, you can see this each cell actually has a certain padding in it, right? There's a border size to that, right? So for that we can actually either set the border 0, or in this case we can actually set a style. So okay, so the style is, I'm going to put this down so that it will be clear. So the style is, we have a style called border collapse. Okay, so what happens is when you go to the border, when you add the border collapse style, automatically the border sizes will all disappear. Okay, and now we don't have any margins or spacings in the system, in the table. Super. So I'll make this 0, and then when I refresh, now we have a lean table without any paddings and spacings, right? Okay, so I'm again going to turn this on, turn it to 1, because we need the guidelines to experiment and see what how this works, right? Okay, perfect. Now that is done. Now the next point is we need to make sure, here it says, now we did this as well. Now this says merge and join the cells on the top row. Okay, so that means, technically speaking, all the cells on the top row should be a single line. As you can see here. Okay, so let's try this out. Okay, so let's try this out. So these two are not technically necessary, this cell padding and cell spacing, because if you have border collapse, the style border collapse added, then these two won't be necessary because it does the same purpose, same thing which is required, right? Okay, so let's try to merge the tables, the cells. Okay, now here what I'm going to do is, since we are going to merge this, I'm going to remove all the columns and keep only one active. Okay, here now if I refresh, now you guys can see that okay, it got removed, but this is not yet merged, right? See, still, since this is just one column, that column is set to the first column only, and the content is not fully going throughout the length, right? So for that, what we need to do is, we just need to put something called another attribute known as col span. Okay, so this col span attribute, what it does is, it will take in a number which will then merge the number of cells. So example, like if I put 2, now you can see this cell is merged into 2 cells. If I put 3, it's going to be merged into 3. So 4 means 4, and if I put 5, that means that will go to the end. Okay, so this will create a full width merged cell. Okay, so that's how you get the merging part done. So this what we used was the term called call span. Okay, now let's see what else is being required. Now this is done. Okay, so this is what is mentioned in the create table task. Sorry. Okay, so then let's jump to the next point. So if you take a look at the code which was given to us by the book itself, you can see the code is quite similar, but since this is being generated through a software, you can see that it has generated a bit more custom styles, just to make sure that the width and the alignments, the text alignments are done. Okay, but don't worry about that. Let's add it when it is required. Okay, so so now since we have the base style with the details and the HTML, now let's jump into some features. Okay, so primarily websites needs to have a navigation feature, right? So websites should have hyperlinks, which will then let you navigate from a place to another, right? So that's the typical way of handling the connectivity through websites and web pages. So let's see how it works when it comes to an hyperlink. Okay, so in the editors, you will get something like this, where it will allow you to insert a hyperlink into a block. So let's see how it works. So now let's add a hyperlink into one of our